You're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. Thanks. Feel like helping the show out? You can super chat or Venmo, and that will help us buy a new computer. We're getting there. We're do I dare even check how close we are? Let's see. Am I going to be disappointed? How close are we? Where are we? What are we doing? What is this? Okay, we're still 2/3 of the way there. So yeah. So help out if you can. Have you ever done a Mark Dice video? I don't know what that is, so no, probably not. I'm currently wearing your NFT. Okay, that's awesome. Yes, buying merch also helps. Now, the next part of this is going to actually have to. You're going to understand immediately why I'm already irritated. First of all, let me just say for the record that we know one thing right away from this is that, well, two things. One, for whatever reason, Ben Shapiro is desperately clinging to this chin/goatee scruff will make him more manly attempt. And, good luck. And the other thing we know is that he's got a Canva subscription because his thumbnail is straight up Canva. They're just borrowing this stuff. So, all right, this is, you're going to see the red. Okay. The Chinese economy is about to drag us down. Okay. Now, obviously, I have a couple of issues right out of the gate. We'll get to the bigger ones in a moment, the more complex ones. But right out, if Biden is doing everything to help the Chinese, why is their economy going down? If he's giving them everything they need, why is there? It hurts. The whole thing hurts. I don't understand the argument. I don't think they do either, which is what makes it very. This is an almond video. Okay, here we go.
Well, folks, the Joe Biden economy is on bad footing right now. It's about.
You know what? We should. Let's not take him at his word. Hold on 1 second. Let's check something out real quick, if we may. Let's go. Oh, I didn't want to open that back up, you silly. Let's see. Okay, wait, I have to do this. Hold on. Block. It's a couple of things, and this is going to be fun. Economic news. Let's see. Well, and all this is a good one too. And we'll go over to here. Let's see. Latest economic news. Yeah, we'll go straight to there then. Okay, couple things. Let's see. U.S. economy. Should we do? We good? Okay. U.S. economy. Retail sales increased 0.7% in July, better than expected as consumer spending is holding up. Advanced retail sales report shows a seasonally adjusted increase of 0.7% for the month, while spending rose 1% excluding autos. Both were better than the 0.4 estimates. July numbers were boosted by a 1.9% jump in spending at online retailers, while sporting goods and related stores increased 1.5%, and food service and drinking places rose 1.4%. A separate report showed that import prices moved 0.4% higher in July, more than 0.2% estimate. However, virtually the entire increase was driven by fuel prices. The Empire State Manufacturing Survey slumped 20 points in August to a reading of negative 19, though the index for future conditions posted a sharp gain. Consumer spending held up well in July as inflation slowed, with retail sales turning a stronger than expected showing for the month. Commerce Department reported on Tuesday. Advanced retail sales report showed some good stuff. July's numbers were boosted by 1.9%. And on time, we saw that part. Series of 11 increases since March 2022. The central bank has taken up its key borrowing rate to 5.25%. That's the Fed raising rates. Despite the additional pressure put on by the Fed, Americans' sustainability to spend speaks to the strength of the U.S. economy in the face of global economic challenges. This is from Morgan Stanley, that left-wing think tank. Also, China's economic model is washed up on the beach, says veteran investor David Roche. Despite a remarkable rally in stock markets so far this year, again, if you are on a 6-foot hole and you are 6 feet tall, and you climb out of the hole, you are not 12 feet tall now. Fucking annoys me. All right. Concerns have been growing over the potential ripple effect for prolonged slowdown in the world's second largest economy, formerly second largest. David Roche, president and global strategist for Independent Strategy, told CNBC Squawk Box Europe on Thursday that global stock markets are failing to price in long-term decline in the role that manufacturing plays in powering emerging market economies. He suggested the market is due a very big downward correction once many concurrent geopolitical and macroeconomic risks are properly priced in, because he thinks some people are fooling themselves about China. China's economic model is washed up on the beach and not going to take off again, which will have a big impact on global markets, says veteran investor David Roche. Okay, fine. And then Biden's approval rating on the economy stagnates despite slowing inflation, AP NORC polls shows. That's because of the Are You Rich poll I showed you before, which is people who are very well off calling themselves poor all over the fucking country, and the vast majority of them being maggots. Okay, so anyways, back to this dumb shit.
To get a lot worse because China's economy is about to collapse.
It's already collapsed.
Well, meanwhile, if it feels as though the economy is on the verge of falling apart, that's only because the economy is on the verge of falling apart. According
It doesn't feel like that, and it's not.
To CNN, China's Evergrande group, which was once the country's second largest property developer, filed for full-on bankruptcy in New York on Thursday. The beleaguered
Bankruptcy New York? Is that a city? I'm you know what? If Bankruptcy New York was an actual place, Trump should have run for mayor first.
Firm borrowed heavily and defaulted on its debt in 2021, sparking a massive property crisis in China's economy, which continues to
Welcome to another episode of Loud Nerd Reading in Starbucks. This motherfucker just scrolling on his laptop. This is the show. And they've got a moving, I mean, obviously they need a moving camera, because how do you keep this shit entertaining? Good fucking Lord. And the great thing about it is that not only is he just reading, he's ignorant about the topic.
Feel the effects. Evergrande filed for Chapter 15 bankruptcy protection that allows the U.S. bankruptcy court to step in when an insolvency case involves another country. Chapter 15 bankruptcy is intended to help promote cooperation.
That's because he's talking about their arm in New York.
Between U.S. courts, debtors, and other countries' courts involved in cross-border bankruptcy proceedings. So what does that mean? Well, China's real estate sector was 30% of the country's GDP. But Evergrande's 2021 default sent shockwaves through China's property markets, damaging homeowners and the broader financial system in the country. Basically, China had built a bunch of...
All right, asshat. This guy's just like reading articles verbatim. All right, well, he's gonna, you know what? That's what he's been doing. Now he's gonna put it in terms we can all understand. She's gonna sharpen it up and inject it right in our buttocks.
Homeowners and the broader financial system in the country. Basically, China had built a bunch of fake growth on the back of borrowing money and then building empty apartment buildings. Evergrande is a massive company with more than 1,300 real estate projects in more than 280 cities.
Okay, I thought there was going to be a big... didn't you? Didn't you think there was going to be a kind of a breakdown at that point where he actually explains what he read in a way... But please, continue your book report, young man, where you started out with something in the order of it had pages.
They've struggled to pay off their loans. The property company's debt load reached $340 billion by the end of last year. Billion.
Yeah, I know. I was talking about it last year, you dumbass. I love all these motherfuckers who are shocked at this shit. He was part of the China's eating our lunch crowd. God damn, these people are late to the game.
That is roughly 2% of China's entire GDP. So China's economy is on the...
Alleged GDP. Their GDP isn't anywhere near the numbers they say. Jesus Christ. If you caught up to this part, at least recognize that the $18 trillion number is fucking phony, and that at best it's cut in half. At best.
Brink. That means the United States economy is in trouble as well. Meanwhile...
No, it doesn't. Their impact will be felt worldwide, but we're already in the process of reshoring factories, moving stuff closer to home, and building a coordinated effort where our companies that are in China can move to other countries either nearby or closer to home. Because Biden knew this when he took fucking office.
Mortgage rates have now hit over 7% in the United States. That's the highest rate in more than 20 years. According to the Wall Street Journal, the increase extends a length...
Because of the Fed raising interest rates, dipshit. This doesn't have anything to do with that. You're the ones who are like, he's also one of these fucking money printer go burr assholes. Like, we printed all this money during the pandemic, and the government just printed money, and the government printed money, and we got to fucking do something about inflation because we printed money. And we don't have monetary inflation. That's garbage. It's fucking nonsense. There's a myriad of other factors, but the primary being supply shock and COVID is what drove up the cost and the availability of goods, and Americans had more money to spend, so we were willing to pay more for it. So the price kept going up because we kept buying it anyways, where Europeans couldn't, and the Chinese certainly fucking couldn't, even in their own goddamn country.
Lengthy stretch of high borrowing costs that has slowed the housing market to a crawl. This marked the first time since last fall the rate on 30-year fixed-rate mortgages rose above 7%. A year ago, rates were around 5%.
Right. Because the Fed has been raising interest rates to combat inflation, and we do not have monetary inflation. We have supply shock, you fucking tool.
The housing market is part of the economy hit most directly by the Federal Reserve's high rate policies. Well, what does that mean exactly? That means...
Okay, breakdown. All right. He's been reading up to this point. Now he's going to give it to us. All right. So tell us what it really means there, scrumply face.
Is that the prices on real estate are about to drop rather precipitously, because it turns out there is no one to buy the real estate. So a bunch of people are just not going to sell their houses, which is fine if you can afford to stay in your house because you got a 2% mortgage or 3% mortgage. Good for you. There are going to be some people who are not able to afford their bills, and they bought the houses kind of on spec, thinking they'd be
on spec
able to flip them. And now...
Right. Okay. So the Armando Montalongos of the world are not going to be able to flip some houses that they got over leveraged on. And to those folks, I vociferously and graciously tell them to get fucked in a corner. I don't care. The offset in the cost of real estate that everybody's going to be seeing, people have locked into their houses. If you're going to buy a house, you're going to wait a little while or the price is going to come down because the actual value of the house, because you're competing with the interest rate. The reality is most people think the interest rate isn't going to stay that long forever because this is directly related. The interest rate rise was directly related to COVID and supply shock, not because there's too much fucking cash floating around. Otherwise, the dollar would be worth 50 cents right now, dummy. If you have too much of something, is it worth more or worth less? Anyways, yes, the general, like, that will be the competition. If I have to pay 7% interest, I'm not going to pay as much for that house. So house flippers who get and this is a foregone conclusion, I would like to say, but they're already fucked out of the market because people who buy and flip houses want to get in and get out quickly. It doesn't matter if it's 7% as long as they can roll it over. If they don't think they can roll it over or add value to it quickly enough, or the value they can add doesn't add up to a certain amount of return on it, they're not going to do it. So those houses will sit idle because nobody lives in them now. Nobody's going to live in them tomorrow. Big fucking deal. They're already sideways in the market anyways. And if somebody owns them as an investment and they lose their shirt, tough shit. You bought a bad investment. That's not anybody's problem. Everybody else who owns their home can ride this out until interest rates come back down and they can make a fair trade for their house and they're locking in for a while. As a matter of fact, the higher the interest rate, it keeps people a little more stable. It offers community stabilization effect that happens over time. And this is what happened in the 70s, stuff where people were just, remember the house you grew up in and everybody stayed in the house and my parents stayed in that house forever and blah, blah, blah. Okay, the reason for that is because the interest rates were so fucking high that even though you could get, and houses weren't that expensive, you still had to pay long term on it. You were like, okay, I'm making this payment out over a couple of decades. So we're here for good because the house was so fucking cheap. And if we move again, the interest rate's up. So we're not going to move again until the interest rate comes way down. Then it dropped to the fucking floor and everybody's shuffling all over the goddamn place. And then COVID happened and everybody wanted to move to a bigger house. You had a home building rush and now that's subsided. This is just normal. This has nothing to do even with monetary policy. This is human beings living through a fucking pandemic and dealing with the aftermath. You idiot. Now, well, let's back up. Say what you were going to say again, dummy.
To afford their bills. And they bought the houses kind of on spec.
Okay, again, fuck people who bought houses on spec.
Thinking they'd be able to flip them. And now when they cannot flip them, those houses will be defaulted.
Right, and they'll be cheap. So if you want to buy a house to live in it, not flip it, I guess, and your credit's pretty good, you're going to be all right.
Stocks fell on Thursday, extending August declines, with investors worried anew about continuing Fed rate hikes. Fed officials still see inflation risks.
Right. Why? Ben, why? Why is the Fed, why are they worried that the Fed is going to keep raising rates? Is it because there's a crash right around the fucking corner? Is it because people are losing their jobs and nobody can find work and unemployment insurance is going through the fucking roof and people are in fucking soup kitchens? No, it's the exact fucking opposite, asshole. The Fed is reacting to inflationary pressures that they believe are coming from rising wages and job security that keeps people from shuffling around. That's it. The only thing that's elevating prices right now is fucking the price of oil. And the sooner we get half of our commuter cars to electric, that number becomes irrelevant.
And the potential need for higher interest rates, according to meeting minutes released this year. When the Fed started lifting interest rates at a rapid clip last year, the rising cost
God damn, he's just playing catch up, isn't he?
of borrowing to buy a home.
This motherfucker, he's reading this so fast. And the reason he's doing it is because he's got to pretend to know stuff that we've known for a year and a half, that I've been telling you guys for a year and a half. He's got to pretend to know it today.
Was expected to be temporary. A year and a half on, rates are climbing back toward their highs, despite briefly.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, everybody. By the way, fucking hell. I get so fucking wound up by this bullshit.
Dipping toward 6% in late 2022 and early 2023. Now, buyers, sellers, and investors are adjusting to the idea higher rates are here to stay, or at least here to stay longer than they were expecting.
Right, which is only going to affect the investors, because buyers might get a house and then they'll be able to refinance in a couple of years when the rates come back down. If you're going to get a 35 fucking year mortgage, I guarantee somewhere in that 35 years, the rates are going to go one direction or another. And more than likely, if you're adding value to your home or the area you're in is decent or you bought it because it's got good schools or all that kind of stuff, that's going to grow and expand over time at a measured amount, just like if you put your money in a fucking, a stock, an index fund.
So a lot of would-be sellers feel stuck in place. Some buyers are giving up.
Again, the amount of people who moved around COVID was enormous, considering. You remember this? And by the way, here's why he's pissed. You want to know why they're freaking out about this? Because these are all the motherfuckers who moved from California and Texas and other places, or New York and other places, to Florida and Texas. And then the fucking cost of living in Texas and Florida went through the fucking roof. The energy costs in Texas are terrible and inconsistent. The Florida's even fucking worse. The amount of fees you pay and how, like, trying to sell your house and get the fuck out. Literally, when I was 11, 12 years old, we're having Thanksgiving at my grandmother's house. And my grandmother said something that made her sound like a mob boss at the Thanksgiving table. And I'll never forget it because I laughed till I fell out of my chair. They were having a conversation about the fact that they had this little condo down in Florida that they would go to, because they lived on the lake in Kentucky, but they and some of their friends were investing in these little condos in these, old folks communities. And they ultimately did go down there to live for part of the time, and we would go visit them, and it was great. But the problem that she was worried about is if they die down there. And she goes, she said, and I quote, my grandmother, who was a college librarian, and said, goodness me, a lot. She said, and I quote, do you have any idea how hard it is to get a body out of Florida? And, what she meant was, if you die down there and you want to be buried in Kentucky, which they ultimately were, Florida makes it as hard as possible, because Florida wants your grandparents to die there, so the whole family has to fly down, visit them, and go to Disneyland. Okay? And yeah, Grandma Sparks just sounded straight up fucking gangster. Right? Say what? Yes, it's a common thing, but it's true. It's absolutely true. And she said it at the dinner, and I fell over. The rest of the night, I was doing Don Corleone jokes, and Grandma, when are we going to whack Tony Fabrizi, huh? I'm sick of that guy. We'll dump him off someplace off of St. Pete. They'll never find him, and if they do, they'll never get him out of Florida. And she was like, oh, stop, like that. And my cousin and I were just fucking falling apart. but it's true. You know, because that's how they want it. All right, where was I? Oh, this dipshit pretending to know economics.
They're instead renting, which is driving up rents. And all of this is artificially created by bad government policy and bad Federal Reserve policy, and it's going to have some pretty significant...
Okay, first of all, bad government policy and bad Federal Reserve policy are two separate things, because Biden is not interfering with the fucking Fed the way Trump did. Trump wanted, and I quote, negative interest rates. He wanted it cost America to print, like, he wanted his debt to be free, essentially. Any debt he adds, that he makes money on the debt. He wanted to invert monetary policy so that he could take on as much debt, that huge chunk of our national debt that he took on. He wanted to finance it in the, with a negative interest rate, meaning that the Fed has to pay him to take on debt. Fucking stupid. So the Fed correcting that shit, or dealing with the impact of COVID and that kind of stuff, or using old policy, and I would, if he's saying bad Fed policy, I agree that they're reacting to the wrong thing. But I don't think he thinks that. I think he just thinks raising interest rates bad.
Downstream effects. Meanwhile,
like what?
A lot of very important things to people's lives, like, for example, childcare, those expenses are just ripping through families.
Well, I would say that would make a good case for a child income tax credit, like a child tax credit, and some sort of subsidy for people, up to maybe say $150,000 per household for childcare. That's a good. I mean, you could handle that. That would be. I mean, it's something supposedly Ivanka wanted, right? Let's just do that.
The national average price of daycare and preschool services rose 6% in July from 1 year before. This is nearly double the overall inflation rate of 3.2%. Everybody's got to keep working those long hours in order to earn those inflated dollars, in order to pay off those inflated bills.
Inflated dollars, inflated bills. Again, he's just using buzzwords and attaching them to other buzzwords.
Parents could see their childcare bills climb higher this fall as providers boost tuition to cover rising costs and federal pandemic aid ceases.
And federal pandemic aid ceases. Ceases as federal pandemic aid ceases. So are you making an argument for more federal pandemic aid?
As providers boost tuition to cover rising costs and federal pandemic aid ceases. And a lot of people don't have options. They have to take the hit.
Well, I mean, obviously you could sell your children. We're Democrats. Don't we just sell them? Isn't that what we're supposed to, isn't that according to, I mean, if they, at least, especially if they haven't been around Roundup.
Rising wages and other expenses are driving up childcare tuition. So people are feeling it right in the pocketbook.
As opposed to, places where it might be ever so slightly more painful.
Moon River.
Mm-hmm.
People are selling off assets in order to make the bills. According to the Wall Street Journal, Americans built bookcases and shrines to the baseball cards, vinyl records, and sneakers they collected, sometimes through painstaking efforts. Now they're selling them off. Collectors are saying they don't have a choice. Well, yeah, I mean, a bunch of people are losing business, and now they're going to have to sell what they got.
What people? What are you fucking talking about? All right. Which one of Ben's friends had to sell their baseball cards?
All of this is going, again, what goes up must come down.
All right. First of all, I fucking guarantee that that a good portion of the people he's talking about who had collectors who were selling their shit to make ends meet bought into crypto too. These fucking beanie baby idiots. I guarantee it. They all ate shit because of crypto.
And now the Federal Reserve is stuck because if they continue to raise those interest rates in an attempt to quash inflation, the economy could flip over. This boat is taking on water. The economy could easily flip over. And if
the boat is not taking on water.
If they don't raise those rates, inflation could continue to chip away at Americans' lifestyles. First,
all right. So what's Ben's issue? I think this is an ad. Is this an ad?
You look in the mirror. Do you see those dark spots? Well, they're not going to go away.
No, I don't. I'm fine. Ew. He's doing Genucell ads? And ZipRecruiter. How many fucking ads do they do on this fucking thing?
.com/dailywire. It is the smartest way to hire. So what exactly are they going to do? They're trapped.
They're trapped. So there's no good option. It's almost as if we came out of a pandemic and we're dealing with the reality of that. So up is bad, down is bad. So Ben Shapiro, ride in on your intellectual white horse from the intellectual dark web and tell us all why won't Joe Biden, he just wants to destroy the country.
They're already talking about lowering the interest rates again, which would presumably jack up the inflation rates again.
We've learned nothing. There comes a time when gold loses its luster, when the diamonds cease to sparkle, and all that matters is a father's love for his child. Such arrogance, such insolence.
According to the Wall Street Journal, most Federal Reserve officials backed an increase
Rupert Murdoch's paper. Please continue.
in interest rates last month, but some saw rising risks they might raise rates too high, underscoring growing caution about further increases.
Yes, that's called a ping pong article where no one decides anything and they just go, some people are worried, some people are excited. What do you think?
Officials still saw significant risks inflation might not fall as much as they expect, which could require them to raise rates again this year, according to the minutes. Those risks include stronger
Hold on. Aren't falling as fast, as much as they expect.
economic growth and the reversal of recent supply chain improvements or declines in commodity
Whoa. You don't get to breeze past that. What improvements were you talking about? There was something improvements he brought up. Did you guys hear that as well? Let me check that.
Those risks include stronger economic growth and the reversal of recent supply chain improvements or declines in commodity prices, which have been largely responsible for the slowdown in inflation.
That sounds like it's part of governmental policy and not Fed policy. That sounds like trade and some of the bills being passed, like the Infrastructure Act and others that guarantee a certain amount of Made in America stuff that has boosted exports, for example. It's weird. Run that by me again. So what's been going on while Joe Biden has been president that you're worried will stop happening?
According to the minutes, those risks include stronger economic growth and the reversal of recent supply chain improvements or declines in commodity prices, which have been largely responsible for the slowdown in inflation.
Let's go, Brandon.
And all of this is going to first hit in China and first hit in Europe, and then it'll hit the United States last. But it's already hitting in Europe.
I can't do it. Can't. Why? What the fuck does that have to do with anything? What? The U.S. Fed interest rate is going to hit first in China? What the shit? God.
To be a moron. To be moronical. An imbecile. Like the dumbest motherfucker that ever lived.
It's too painful. I don't think I can get through it, CSL. I'm trying. Oh, God.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
All right, now, just... This is so dumb.
According to the Wall Street Journal, a sluggish economy, higher interest rates, and the expiration of pandemic-era life support for ailing companies is forcing...
Oh! Don't breeze past that, motherfucker. You're against that, and you're now bitching that it's gone? Pandemic era what?
A sluggish economy,
A sluggish economy,
interest rates, and the
higher interest rate, and what?
expiration of pandemic-era life support for ailing companies is forcing...
The expiration of pandemic-era life support for ailing companies. And again, sluggish economy, go fuck yourself.
more businesses in Europe to declare bankruptcy. A new report also showed new business creation in Europe is slowing.
Oh dear. It's slowing, is it? Okay, let me know when it stops.
As the Biden administration's support for green tech continues to draw new investment abroad.
New investment from abroad. Fuck, man. This is gonna dry. I swear to God. I feel like I'm on some sort of pyre, and CSL, you have lit the wood beneath my feet, and you did it to me on purpose. I feel
Europe
like
is slowing.
Shut
As
the
the
fuck
Biden
up, dummy. So I feel like it's the China smite. It totally is. Oh, God. Is that a Big Biscuit t-shirt? Yes, it's a Big Biscuit t-shirt. Yeah, it is indeed. I have great family memories of Summer's mom is from the Kansas City area, and so we have I've very nice like family memories of us getting both sides of the family together there and that kind of stuff. Anyways, higher interest rates and sluggish economy fuel European bankruptcies, and oh motherfucker! And part of the reason is because those businesses are coming here.
Administration support for green tech continues to.
Wait, I want you to hear the whole fucking thing. I want you to hear Ben Shapiro saying this whole fucking thing. Come on.
Report also showed new business creation in Europe is slowing.
New business creation in Europe is slowing, and
as the Biden administration's support for green tech continues to draw new investment abroad.
Now, do you think he dropped the word "from" on purpose, or that he's just incapable of saying anything positive about, Biden policies, so he just joked on the "from" part? As the Biden administration's new green tech, hold on, let's listen to it again. Hold on, I got a good idea. This will be how. Let me set it on. Let's see. How do I set this? How do did I do something here? No. Okay. We'll go to here. Settings. We'll go to playback speed, and do we go to normal? We'll go to half speed. That'll be it. Okay. So let's run by this again. Stupid. And tell us again, if you will. I don't know if I have something. I think it's a cat hair. Is that? It's hard to say. All right. Anyways, tell me again. So European business slow to crawl.
Bankruptcy. A new report also showed new business creation in Europe is slowing as the Biden administration's support for green tech continues to draw new investment abroad. The number of
from abroad. The Biden, and again, this is the European job growth is slowing because those jobs are coming here. What the ever-loving shit? This is just weird.
EU business filings for bankruptcy in the 3 months to end June rose 8.4% from the previous quarter. That's the highest level since 2015. Registrations of new business fell 0.6%.
All across Europe. Hey, is there anything going on in Europe right now that might be fucking with people's bottom line? I can't tell. I've seen some noise in the news about something going on in Europe right now. After the pandemic, there was some sort of loud noises.
And all the happy talk about Bidenomics is masking the fact that the economy is slowing globally.
Okay, first of all, fuckwad. Biden is not the president of the fucking earth, dummy. Secondly, if it's better here than it is elsewhere while everything is going down, then the person who's running the shit here is doing better than anyone else. I don't understand the argument here. Fucking hell, this is terrible. There's it's just a
chat with you and somehow death loses its sting.
It's just too much sometimes. This is and this is a guy who will talk about Trump derangement syndrome.
That is Bidenomics at work. Is it a slowing economy, inflated costs, and everybody knows it?
No, it isn't. And Bidenomics doesn't run the fucking world, stupid. It's so goofy.
And guess what? Republicans should be running against that if they're not distracted with all the other issues that Democrats wish to distract them with, including Donald Trump's legal travails.
Travails? It travails? Is that his? I would just go with indictments. That kind of got more of a punch than travails. You know, the French don't even have a word for travails. Oh, God. So apparently, Ben's biggest complaint is that Bidenomics is hurting China. You don't say.
Meanwhile, Joe Biden is offering all sorts of failures for Republicans to pick up on, including
Yeah, let's do it. Here's a bunch of failures.
Failures in Hawaii.
Failures in Hawaii. Yes, a fire breaks out there. They send FEMA everything they could possibly need. It's a once in a century fire. Instead of mourning the dead and trying to make sure it doesn't happen again, they're like, they just straightened it off. He didn't fly down there right away because they'd rather have the resources than some dude glad-handing. But
Joe Biden is going to be going to Maui, but the amount of aid that he's offered to families is like $700 a family, which doesn't even pay for the amount of money that each family in Lahaina has paid for the Ukraine war. Seriously, like the amount of money in tax.
Okay. All right. First of all, fuck off. Hold on. Let's go right here. This is from August 18th, so we can go straight to it. Here you go. Biden-Harris administration sends nearly 1,000 federal responders to Hawaii. This is August 18th. Today, the Biden-Harris administration announced that nearly 1,000 federal responders are on the ground. They're already there, in Hawaii to help the state recover from the devastating wildfires. In the days since President Biden declared a major disaster declaration in the state of Hawaii, FEMA has approved more than $5.6 million in assistance to nearly 2,000 households, including more than $2.3 in initial rental assistance. Initial rental assistance. While they're being sheltered until they find a place. If they need, it's basically like, here's your down payment on a new place if you're moving as far as an apartment or something like that, or whatever, until your house is rebuilt or whatever. So search and rescue teams remain on the ground to assist with efforts and are working diligently to ensure all properties are meticulously searched and any victims and personal property are handled with the utmost reverence and respect. You know, the kind of language we got used to hearing from the Trump administration as he threw toilet paper towels at people. Thanks to the partnership between the Hawaii Fire Relief Housing Program administered by the American Red Cross and funded by FEMA, the number of survivors in congregate shelters fell by 50% yesterday. The Red Cross expects to move all survivors who are in shelters into hotel rooms by next week. More than 300 Red Cross staff are working with partners to ensure people receive help as quickly as possible. Funded by FEMA. The Red Cross has distributed 30,000 meals and snacks to survivors and responded to more than 2,100 requests to help families locate missing loved ones. Additionally, the Salvation Army served roughly 12,000 meals a day to survivors last week and continues the feeding mission and is also providing emotional and spiritual support to survivors of the west part of Maui. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency immediately deployed staff to Maui following the Hawaii wildfires and has a full incident command team on the ground working closely with FEMA and our federal, state, and local partners. The agency's efforts are focused on identifying, removing, and safely disposing of household hazardous waste and disaster debris to protect residents from environmental and health hazards. This is the next step to the recovery process before the clearing of debris. This is a sad disaster, and this is how a properly functioning government should respond. Agencies, including FEMA, the Department of Defense, Environmental Protection Agency, and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Strategic Preparedness and Response, the U.S. Small Business Administration, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Food and Nutrition Service, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers are all working in tandem to help support the communities impacted by this tragedy. In addition to the actions listed above, the following agencies are providing support: Federal Emergency Management, the U.S. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. That's all these guys and what they're doing. And each one U.S. Army Corps of Engineers deployed 27 responders, 15 personnel providing virtual support, and 41 contractors to assist with planning and assessment for generator installations and debris collection and removal. Temporary power personnel completed 10 of 11 generator installations in a day. I guarantee, add all that shit up, plus the $700, all the people there are getting way more bang for their buck than whatever they could possibly individually be sending to Ukraine, which is horseshit anyways. They're not sending anywhere near that per person, especially compared to the rest of the fucking federal budget. Fuck off.
Taxes, if you prorate it across the economy, what you see is the people behind have paid more than $700 for the war in Ukraine and are getting less than $800 back from the federal government.
Horse shit.
When their house burns down.
Horse shit. Also, by the way, for the record, Ben Shapiro is one of those people who believes that if you live in an area and the insurance companies stop insuring your area because it's uninsurable and they can't make money on it, fuck you. And if your house burns down and you don't have insurance, that's your ass, because that's the market.
Karine Jean-Pierre, however, has been using the magic words whole of government approach, which is a way of saying we have no idea what we're doing, but we'll say a thing.
No, it's actually verifiable details about who is going, what they are doing, and how they are all working in concert. Here's a good question, and we'll get to what he plays at first. What do you think he thinks about the Small Business Administration being there, making sure that people who had businesses in the area can not lose their entire nest egg, their business, because their product burned up, their retail space burned to the ground, if they need to get a loan and relocate, or if they need to get a loan to hold them over until they can rebuild, right? The U.S. Small Business Administration has more than 30 staff on the ground in Hawaii and are phasing in more. Survivors and businesses who register for FEMA assistance will also be eligible for low-interest disaster loans to be considered for all forms of disaster assistance. Survivors must contact FEMA first. Information and details on the location of that is by calling the SBA Customer Service Center. SBA's disaster lending program has also started getting money to Maui. So you get direct payments and you can get low interest loans. Presumably, if you have insurance and they delay paying it, you can get a loan in the amount of, whatever the combination of the amount you would get plus interest would get from your insurance, right? Food nutrition service, blah, blah, blah. Nutritional service, yeah. That's what a whole of government approach is.
The entire nation is grieving with you and is going to be with you as you rebuild and recover. We are not going to go anywhere until that occurs, that happens. The president is going to continue to marshal a whole of government effort, approach, as he has done from day one, with having dozens of federal agencies and agencies and departments on the ground, helping local partners and state partners get the assistance, the federal assistance that these survivors need. And this is incredibly important. This is something that the president takes very seriously.
Well, he'll be flying directly over East Palestine, Ohio, when he heads on over to Maui, as per his usual.
Fuck you. Let's go back to, first of all, there were fatalities in the train wreck that happened during Trump's time in office. Did he visit the site? Sorry. Perhaps, if as he's flying over there, maybe he can yell out the window that we arrested Marjorie Taylor Greene's campaign chairman and two of her other operatives, people who worked with the GOP, who were stealing money from the people of East Palestine under the pretext that they were going to give it to them. 3 men who have worked as Republican political operatives agreed to pay more than $50,000 in restitution and penalties in Ohio for their roles in operating a phony charity that collected cash purportedly to help the victims of the East Palestine train derailment. The settlement, announced Thursday by Republican Ohio Attorney General David Yost, requires that Isaiah Wartman, Luke Mahoney of WAMA Strategies to pay more than $23,000 to a local food bank, plus $3,000 in investigative costs and fees. Under the deal, Michael Pepple, co-founder of the fraudulent charity Ohio Clean Water Fund, must pay $25,000 civil penalty and agree to a lifetime ban on starting, running, or soliciting any charity in the state, just announced, which he saw as a big relief. That Wortman worked as a campaign manager and senior advisor to Republican U.S. Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia. Mahoney worked as a campaign staffer for Representative Elise Stefanik of New York. But tell me how. Oh, and also, let's see. You know what we should do? Hold on. It's a June. This is PBS. This is April, June 21st. Yeah. This is Trump land, so we'll check in. Let's check in on these guys. Months after a toxic train derailment, East Palestine is fracturing. In the Ohio town where Norfolk Southern train carrying hazardous chemicals derailed in February, recovery efforts are undercut by lingering uncertainty. The Norfolk Southern Corp train was on fire when it passed through. Okay, we saw this. My first realization of something up. This is Friday, February 3rd. The following days would go in a blur, blah, blah, blah. It looked like a big alien tornado. Within days, the evacuation order was lifted. Trains were running on new tracks laid atop contaminated soil as confusion reigned. Once you lose public's trust, it's difficult, if not impossible, to get it back, says Samantha Montano, assistant professor of emergency management at Massachusetts Maritime Academy and the author of the book Disasterology. By failing to provide a clear response, she said authorities walked into this huge problem in terms of losing the narrative. That's because the fucking governor wanted to do a controlled burn. Nearly 5 months later, the narrative has never been recaptured. The crash prompted congressional hearings, discussions of train safety rules, scrutiny of U.S. petrochemical production, and no tangible changes. The EPA took over the cleanup effort. The EPA aren't we supposed to, shouldn't we have gotten rid of that organization? And Norfolk Southern is paying for that process and making donations to the community. Many East Palestine residents are wary of assurances that air and water are safe and resentful of a company that they see as trying to buy its way into their good graces. Some people have already moved away, and those who remain are increasingly at odds with one another. There's a lot of divisions, said an owner of a local flower shop. Flowers straight from the heart. Closer to the heart. Some people want to move on, she said, but others are still worried about getting sick. It's been a real struggle. Hold on one second. Let me move this up here so I can see it better. Norfolk Southern President and Chief Executive Officer Alan Shaw concedes the vent and burn was terrifying. That's nice of him. Is it safe? In the wake of the devastating tornado, flood, or hurricane, in the wake of a devastating tornado, flood, or hurricane, it's common for communities to band together. Okay, they're making this argument. There's photos of the black residue at her bathtub because they're going to have a backup from their treatment plant. Concerned residents, blah, blah, blah. Locals like Conrad are skeptical. After the controlled burn, she was in bed with nausea and headache for days. It's just a chemical exposure. Okay, so we call it an assessment of chemical exposure survey of 528 Ohio residents conducted by the federal government. Wait a minute. The who? Through the end of March, 94% of residents say they at least one or new worsening symptom, most commonly affecting their ears, nose, throat, nervous system, lungs, eyes, skin, or heart. It's pretty much everything, I think. No genital problems? Good. All right, sure. According to an Ohio Department Health fact sheet, 7 members of the 15-person team conducting the survey reported symptoms themselves. 2 EPA contractors involved in the response also reported symptoms, as did Welton. Kemmer's symptom tracking journal, following the money. Air monitoring systems have been put up. EPA head Michael Regan toured the impact at Sulphur Run Creek in East Palestine on February 16th. Over time, disaster impact on local economy can breed resentment. Okay, that's just people pissed because they lost their business or they lost customers. Long arm of lawsuits. Cameron was told during a community meeting that it was safe to eat the eggs from her backyard coop, but by the second meeting was advised against it. There are old lessons you didn't learn the first 100 times. Whatever. Okay. Gil's advice for people in East Palestine: be kind to one another. Be nice. Y'all are going through some traumatic stuff. Cool. Thanks, boss. That's great. Now, granted, a lot of those folks have rejected government help or won't let FEMA on their land because they believe that from the Trump side of the world that they're there to plant listening devices or put chips in their kids.
Visual arrangement. Again, Joe Biden is a target-rich environment. New AP poll out today. Only 36% of American adults approve of Joe Biden's handling of the economy.
Right. But you yourself said that one of the reasons why Europe is having trouble is because Biden's economic policies, his energy policies specifically, are bringing more businesses to the United States, and they're not opening in Europe.
Only 42% approve of his overall performance.
I'm one of that 42%. I would argue that it's bigger.
People, by the way, really, really overall do not want to see a Biden-Trump rematch next year.
Well, no. I'm not. I mean, I don't think Trump is the kind of quality of human being we should have running for office in this country. But if he does, I'm not scared of it.
Here is the AP poll. Okay, would you like to see each of the following individuals run for president in 2024 or not? Joe Biden, 75% no. Donald Trump, 69% no. So obviously this is what we're going to do. Are you tired of the lies?
Jesus Christ. So this is what we're going to do. This is what this show is all about.